Hello, can you guys hear us? Hi.
Sure.
Hey, yep, we can hear you online.
Totally unfair.
Boom, out with the flu. I have been out with the flu. I can.
Hi, Amy, can you hear us okay?
Yeah. Got it.
Oh, there we go. Okay, all right. Yeah, it is.
He said he was gonna be on.
Yeah, I don't remember.
I don't remember it.
The sandbox from all the.
Yeah, the sandbox.
Yeah.
Do you guys want to sign in? Or?
Well, they're on that, they're committee members, so they don't need to.
I got it. We'll get you on the.
Hey, Rob.
Hi.
How you doing? You ready to show again today?
Yeah, Amy's online unless she can do it from online, but I think probably they're gonna want me to.
Good, good for you.
I don't know about that.
That's just one man's opinion.
I know, I'm sorry, I have the flu, so I don't think you really want me in there passing germs around.
Well, that's horrible.
Agreed.
Get well quick.
I went to work and then we realized I wasn't well and I got kicked out.
Well, seeing how it's 1 o'clock, good afternoon. I'd like to call the February 4th, 2026 meeting of the Tucson Pima County Outdoor Lighting Code Committee to order. We have a roll call, please.
Amy Oliver,
Present online?
Dennis Kuhn,
Here,
Craig Barron,
Here,
Robert East,
here.
Yul Januzzi,
Online.
Daniel's leader,
here,
Alex Zimmerman.
Here, online.
We have a quorum.
great. Let's move on to item number 2 on the agenda, which is approval of minutes, legal action report for January 7th, 2026 meeting. And like everybody look at that, and we need a motion.
Make a motion to approve.
Have a second.
A seconding motion to approve.
Is there any discussion? Have you have a roll call? Or just all in favor, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Mr.
Hearing no
Chair,
opposed, passes.
motion passes 7-0.
Okay, let's move on to agenda item 3, which is consideration of chair and vice chair positions. And at this point, I wonder if I could turn it over to our chair, Amy. You can address that.
Yeah, I'm happy to address that. So why we do this is that, you know, well, Dennis and I have been serving for quite some time, Dennis for a very long time. And this is always an opportunity to make sure that anyone else who is sitting on the committee, who is interested in serving as chair or vice chair has that opportunity to speak up and say that they would like to take on that role. It's also an opportunity for either Dennis or myself to say we would like to pass that role on to someone else, so that everyone in this committee has that opportunity to have a voice to be heard and to lead in this committee. So this is an opportunity for discussion of that. So if anyone has anything that they would like to say, or if they would like to bring up that they would like to serve in this capacity, or if Dennis would like to give up his capacity after, how many years has it been? 20 or something? That's your.
Just
Now,
stay on the
speak
committee,
now,
but I-
speak now.
Well, I'll do this if I have to as vice chair. I don't think I'm the right person to chair. I have a great deal of work commitments and my time is just not there to do any more than I'm doing.
I mean, I'm happy to continue working in this capacity as well. And I have enjoyed doing it. I enjoy serving the community in this way and serving this committee in this way and taking on the commitments that come with it as well. So I am happy to continue in this. If the committee would like me to continue, I think that's also important as well, to make sure that all of the committee members have that vote of confidence as well.
Discussion.
For obvious, I support, Amy and Dennis staying in their positions they have.
Should we have I guess we should have a motion. For that end and we can make that official.
I'm happy to make the motion.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
All right, aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Are we allowed to vote? Aye.
You normally are.
I mean,
Hey,
for
vote.
ourselves.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes, so Amy will continue as chair and I will continue as vice chair. Item 4 on the agenda is formation of engineering Working Group Special Subcommittee. And, again, I want to turn that back to Amy, and, she can provide more information on that.
Well, we've started this process of working to create an additional subcommittee or working group that is specifically to answer engineering questions. I've asked a couple of members of the committee to help lead that. And so really right now, I'm not able to say that we have formally formed this committee because we need a formal commitment from our committee members to be able to move forward with this. If either of they know who they are, if they would like to speak up, I would appreciate it. If they're ready to start formation of this committee, that would end up being led partially by either myself or by Dennis every time that working group meets. So that Dennis isn't always taking on that additional responsibility, but so that at least one of us is always there. I see Buell's hand is raised.
Yeah, I was just curious. Sorry if I missed it in the materials that were circulated, but what's the charge to the subcommittee? I might be interested in serving on it if one of the other two people you've asked aren't able to.
Yeah, so quite specifically, we've had a number of questions come up. So like say with like bagel lights and overhangs, and how do we figure out what those distances are, and measuring that type of information so that our engineering is correct. We've noticed a few issues in the current code that need an update of that kind, and that's just not work that the subcommittee, so the code subcommittee, that's myself, Dennis, and Craig, can really always solve those questions in a meaningful and timely manner, in
Thanks.
addition to everything else we're doing.
Thanks, that's great. I hope the two people you've asked say yes, but if they don't, I'd be willing to help. But maybe that'll help encourage them to say yes.
So it won't be you. I like it. I can see Craig's hand is raised. Sorry, I can't see. The room is a little dark. No, it isn't Craig. Who is it? It's Daniel. Who is it?
It's Rob.
Rob.
I was one
I'm
of
sorry.
the- Rob.
God, I can't see. I'm sorry.
There's, Amy, I was one of the people I believe that you've referenced. I'm more than happy to help out Zimmerman and this committee.
All right. Well, that only leaves one more.
Yep, this is Alex Zimmerman. Yeah, I am more than happy to help out within that subcommittee.
Great, thank you. So I think we can, we'll let everybody know now then that we are going to move forward formally with the creation of that. And so we'll work within the subcommittee and this new subcommittee and working group to start getting those meetings scheduled. That'll help us move a lot more quickly. So I really appreciate you, Alec and Rob, being willing to take on this commitment to help us get this done and make sure that it's accurate. Thank you. I don't think we need a vote on it, Dennis. I think we can just,
I think we can
Sing
just
along.
move on, then,
Yeah.
and we know we have the resource available. Fine, but let's move on to item 5, which is the FMS presentation discussion. So we had the presentation last time, and there were a lot of questions about their methodology and what they haven't done, what they have done. Since that time, I believe there was a draft published, and I think we'd like to hear people's reaction, committee members' reaction to that, if they have any questions or statements they'd like to make. I'd like to just open it up to whoever wants to talk about it. Go ahead.
The presentation was just a condensed Reader's Digest version. That's what we had. And then there was a discussion that if and when we can send out the full report. I believe this is what was sent out recently with the full report. I have reviewed it, but I was under the impression we were going to have an additional presentation on the full report since we only had a condensed presentation.
Amy, do you want to respond to that? I think you were or this is Dan. I think you were at one point concerned about, we only distributed the full report to the to the lighting code committee at this time.
Was
I
that
don't
question for
believe-
me, Dan?
Yeah, I don't believe
Yeah.
FMS was going to provide the full report until they got concurrence from you.
Yes, that was correct, that they were waiting for feedback. So there were, Rob, their job is to go back. So this first initial report was for the Outdoor Lighting Code Committee to look at. Subcommittee gave them a bunch of initial feedback so they could fix some things in it. But then they needed some additional feedback so that they can actually give a full report. So I think they're not ready to give a full presentation yet. If you have full written feedback you want to give them on what you've seen in their draft, I think that would be helpful to them so that they can go back and take a second look at anything. Katie, I think would appreciate that very much.
Amy, thanks for the clarification. I do not have written comments at this time.
Anybody else? Well, I guess I would encourage everyone to review the document that we have and offer any comments. Again, I'm under the impression that it's a work in progress, and I'm not sure that the next step is a final report from them. I think we need to see an update, that we can better judge what they're presenting and to what value it is towards getting this code amended and updated. Any
I don't know if
other,
it's me
go ahead.
again. I agree with you, right? It is a work in progress. And so what we don't want to have them do is repeatedly report in on the same report until we know that it contains all of the information that we need to be able to use it to make meaningful progress on the code. We have learned some really useful things thus far, but we're going to need that feedback from our engineers on the committee to get all of the rest of the meaningful data out of it to help us make progress, especially on those engineering components. I keep saying Bega Lights now because I'm like, we learned some really new important stuff from them so far, and we need more feedback on that from the committee.
One particular issue, though, is that you had asked FMS if they could evaluate other jurisdictions that have quite restrictive lighting regulations, for example, Flagstaff, and give us any thoughts on that and whether those light levels would be able to produce illumination that's in accordance with the recommended practices for light levels. And we haven't got that feedback. I'm sort of the opinion that they're not going to be able to show that some of those other ordinances can actually achieve those light levels. But I'd like to see that. So.
Right. I mean, yes, that is something that we've asked for since the beginning. It wasn't even, didn't have to be the most restrictive areas, but generally speaking, anything even similar to Tucson in any fashion that has a lighting code, or more restrictive, to understand how they're doing it, and how they are meeting these requirements, because I think it's important for us to understand that. Flagstaff is exploding as a community. They're growing rather substantially. They're still much smaller than Tucson, but they're growing every month at this point, not even every year. It's not a year over year sort of situation. So we need to understand how they are managing to do that, how Sedona is managing to do that, this sort of explosive growth and tourism and everything that we're not seeming to be able to achieve. But they're still doing that with their lighting codes. So we do need to be able to see that kind of information.
I think without anything else on this issue, we should move to agenda item 6, which is committee discussion. And That's intended for general discussion on the code. And, one thing that I have run into with increased frequency lately, and it's in conjunction of some of the special inspections that I've been engaged to, is the prevalence of outline lighting being put onto buildings using LEDs, and particularly with various colors, some cases violet, blue, green, and whether these are part of the signage or graphics part of the building design, or whether it's just lighting and their light fixtures. And it's becoming increasingly difficult to make those distinctions. And so I guess I'd like to encourage us all going forward to think that that's something we need to really tie down, because compared to the past, there's a great deal of inexpensive product out there that lets people put this lighting on buildings where they never considered doing it before, and it's just happening to a much greater extent. And it seems like it could be a significant contributor. The other thing is it tends to be colored light sources that don't actually have a true correlated color temperature. So how are they classified? So I think we need to all think in terms of how those products are affecting the outdoor environment, the effects on plants, on people, on animals affected, and the observatory interest to the effect that it affects dark sky and all, particularly those that are using the blue and the violet and the green light sources that are short wave and are not going to pass through the sky. They get reflected back down. I think it's something that needs to be really gone into with a greater consideration than maybe it's had up to this point. So I'd just like to throw that out there. I don't know if there's anything else anybody has. So now's the time.
Well, I think, Dennis, that those pictures that you showed before in regards to your special inspections and the other jobs that you've done and show those, I think we all need to see copies of those pictures to really get an idea of what is going on for those who have not seen those.
Yeah, what Craig's talking about is we did go over this in subcommittee. I can try to make more of that available to give everybody an idea of what we're seeing.
Dennis, you brought this up, I think, with smoke shops or something recently. Is this
There are some retail businesses.
continuation of that?
Yeah, it's sort of associated with it because it's really something different. What we're seeing in some of these retail establishments is that they're actually putting very bright lights on the inside of their show windows, at the fronts of their stores. They're shining out. Others are actually putting in outdoor light fixtures that likely have not been permitted and are the wrong color temperature and probably are going beyond what the code will allow in terms of movement around. So that's a case by case thing, but
You mentioned these where you had done some inspections.
not so many inspections on, I've actually done as part of my design work, some mitigation work for businesses that gotten citations, and then they need an engineered plan to, prove what's legal and show what to change so that they can become legal, to mitigate the citation. So we've done several projects of that type. What's sad is in some cases that happens and then you see it again a few months later and it's all back the way it was before.
So the ones I've seen, it just seems like they put these out after the fact. They're not permitted.
Correct.
It's complaint driven, most likely. They have them inspected. I think I mentioned when we worked on the sign code, if something was 1 inch inside the building, was not considered inside the glass, not considered a sign, but that's a very gray area. I think there's a way maybe that we could write, if something, however, nits or whatever, if there's a way, measurable way to read it on the outside, maybe there's something we can write, part of the outdoor lighting code that is non-permissible.
Yeah, another aspect that I've thought is that maybe this just needs, and perhaps just an advisory in our lighting code. But any lights like that that are on the interior of the building should really have to comply with interior regulations, which should include, compliance with the energy codes that are adopted. And in most cases, the energy code doesn't have that much headroom in it for lighting power that they can push this high level light out through their front windows the way that it's happening. So, and another aspect of that is that the energy code requires controls on interior lighting. And if they have those controls, there's ways that those lights should be turned off when there's no occupancy. But in fact, they're left on and they really,
Dan and Clayton, are any comments from you guys of how to regulate this?
This is Clayton with the City of Tucson. This is a challenge from not only illumination that is intended to shine through storefront windows and attract business, but also just from the interior lights shining out. We've heard complaints in the city of a number of different businesses where, you know, adjoining neighborhoods identify, say, an office building that has the lights on all night long, and the lights are just shining through windows, and they're not, you know, LEDs placed close to the glass. It's just the overhead lights in the office space that are, again, if they remain on all night long, creates, you know, a tremendous amount of outdoor light when there's no blinds or anything else that would shield those. So, you know, from my perspective, I would say that we have a number of different variables that probably should also be considered. From one extreme where, you know, business owners might be placing an LED strip right next to the light and aiming it out where it provides no interior benefit. It is strictly intended to, you know, attract folks to the building, as opposed to, you know, the other end of that spectrum where it's just normal interior lighting that is still contributing to, you know, outdoor glow.
yeah, and that's the hard part. How do you
Differentiate.
how do you control the bad use of light versus the allowable and good use of light for the interior that has an unintended consequence of spilling out of the building?
Or the intended consequence.
Well, sure, it can be intended. You know, new buildings, interior lighting is regulated by the energy code, and the code requires controls. And for many types of spaces, for example, if it's a 300 square foot or smaller space, it pretty much has to have an occupancy sensor. So if that space is vacant, that light should be off. But there are a lot of other ways of controlling interior light that do not depend on occupancy. And the problem there is in the energy code, it just says you have to have the control devices. It doesn't say you have to actually operate them in a certain way. So, but again, there's always ways for people to get around this. The question is, should we have any more rules? And how can we do it in a way that doesn't put an undue cost or inconvenience on somebody that's just trying to run their building in a normal and customary way of running a building? And I don't know how to draw that line. Go ahead.
This is Clayton with the city again. I do think that it would benefit the committee to discuss the exterior lights that we are seeing mounted on a more frequent basis. Dennis mentioned colored lights. We're seeing more applications come through the building plan review for, say, a blue or orange strip around the outside of the building that is really just exterior lighting. It may be directly exposed LED, it may be behind a piece of plastic or something, but it is clearly external illumination of the building. But the applicants in some cases are challenging whether it qualifies as the definitions that the lighting code already present. And so, that to me should be a clear-cut regulated light that the outdoor lighting code regulates. We're not talking about a light that's inside the building that's shining out a window. It's clearly, it could just be architectural illumination of one sort or another, but it is clearly external to the building. I think the code should address this.
Buell, you've got your hand raised.
Yeah, I have vivid memory of discussing exactly this kind of lighting before the last revision. Things like the Aloft Hotel and things like that, which have exactly this kind of lighting. I thought this was already covered and had to be included inside the limits. Am I wrong about that, Dennis?
No, there is in the present code and going forward, it does say if it's a light fixture, it has to be counted in the lumen caps. But
Does it say fixture or, I mean, I thought we specifically were including the law, exactly what Clayton was just describing.
I'm pretty sure the current code says all external lighting.
Right.
So anything that's lighting that is external to the building is already counted.
And it certainly was the
And
intent in
already
the
governed.
2012, it certainly was the intent in the 2012 code to include them.
Yeah, I mean, I believe, in my opinion, it is already governed. It is a
But maybe-
matter of
we
reminding
need-
them, like, it is a light and it is outside, therefore it is governed.
Yeah, but maybe we have to, I don't know.
Well, then-
I keep thinking about getting
Oh.
this example book that we've talked about over the last year, where we could show this kind of lighting and say, yes, it is
Well,
covered.
So the issue becomes then, like, we can't anticipate, part of the reason I wasn't here in 2012, part of the reason you guys wrote the code you did, from my perspective, was to take care of, what about when somebody comes up with a new invention for lighting? Which is why it's like, it's all external lighting. If it is outside, that means you are intending to light outside. Therefore, it is governed by this code. And
Yeah,
therefore
I
we have to fall
totally
within the
agree with
limits.
you. I'm just
Yeah.
appreciating that Clayton brought this up because
Yeah.
if it's something that the public is bringing to the county and the city, then now we have discussed it. It's in the public record and we can then pay attention to make sure that our wording is as good as we can make it.
I mean, I guess that's a question for Clayton and Dan. Does that become what the explicit language of the code needs to be? Is do we need to get that explicit and simple where we have a sentence somewhere that says, if the lighting is outside or it is intended to be seen outside, it is therefore governed by this code? Like, I mean, if your intention is that the light be seen outside or be illuminating the outside space, then it is governed by this code.
This is Dan. I think it becomes maybe a little more complicated than that in the examples Dennis had shown some of us, because then it became the question, is this part of the sign or is this part of the exterior lighting? In some examples, we, during the subcommittee, had said we thought one was a sign and we thought one was probably exterior lighting.
Well, to be fair, I agree with you. I was there. We did do that, but the one was in a cabinet sign. It was a light inside of a cabinet sign. It was covered by fascia. The one that Dennis is referring to now has no covering. It is a completely exposed light. And I mean, I think that is different. It's not the light bulb inside of the cabinet sign is to illuminate the inside of the cabinet sign. And therefore the light exposure is muted and has very little, upward projection. The completely exposed light is just a light.
But if I also recall, some of that was, I don't remember if it was in a channel, but I don't remember if it was open on top or if it was open in the front or if it was open
I,
on.
I don't remember the specific example, but I've seen multiple types of linear lights applied to buildings. In some cases, the light itself is in a channel that is only open on one edge, say the bottom. And so if it's installed with the lens to the bottom, then it effectively is a full cutoff light fixture.
Right,
And then it's mounted under an overhanging lip on the building. So what ends up happening is you have a full cutoff light fixture under an overhanging lip. That is now counted as 0 lumens. So you can now install as much of that light as as whoever's putting it in, they can put as much in as they want, and it doesn't contribute against the lumen cap. And some cases that can be a lot of light.
right.
But the second question is, as long as it's a white light, then we can apply in the present code, 3,500 Kelvin limit, in the proposed amended code, 3,000 Kelvin limit to that. And we could apply a lumen cap to it if, say, it didn't have the overhanging canopy, it was just, say, on a wall with nothing above it, now it applies lumen cap. Or if it's not a flat lens and it has a wrapped up lens of some kind, or it's just a tube where it doesn't really be full cutoff, it could still be considered as an unshielded fixture and applied toward the unshielded lumen cap. So that's all kind of easy to figure
That's
that.
the easy stuff, right?
Where it gets tougher though, is when it's not a white source, it's a colored source. And I don't think we're currently saying how to deal with a colored light source.
Can I ask you is it a colored source though? I know exactly which example you're talking about. Is it a colored source or is it a colored glass? It's a white light in purple glass.
This is Clayton with the City of Tucson. I'd like to clarify that there's a number of different scenarios that we have seen. Some of those include colored LEDs. So
Okay.
we are seeing more and more LEDs, and those LEDs also can be varied through a controller. So, you know, the color
Not all the
intensity,
same color.
right?
Right,
And so it becomes even more difficult to apply the prescriptive allowances of the code when a fixture is installed that can be varied in its output. I'd like to also point back to the definition of luminaire that, specifies that if there are, light sources closer than the specified proximity, they all count as one. And then we also have a maximum luminaire allowance. So if you've got 100 feet of LED and all of the LEDs are within, 6 inches or 8 inches of each other, we have to count the entire strip as one luminaire based on the definitions of the code. And so
And so from a practical point of view, if it's an unshielded fixture, then you run into the limit on how many lumens you can have in an unshielded fixture, and very quickly you run out of lumens on unshielded. But I've seen many that are going in and being considered as fully shielded, but it's like under an overhang in canopy, and they've been approved by Plan Check, and it appears to me as an inspector, I have to approve it at this point, and have done so. But if we don't think that's right, then we have to decide, is there, why shouldn't that be allowed? And is there an alternative that can be allowed? I just haven't been able to pin that down. But the color temperature thing is something I think we can address, and I think we should address it. And so, any committee members that have an opinion on that, we really need to know. And Buell, I think at one time, you and I talked about it, that you cannot assign a color temperature per se to a colored light source. But we're still going to have the same underlying principles, which is that short wavelength light goes up and gets reflected off the sky, and the longer wavelength will pass through and not be reflected as much. So is there perhaps, red and orange and yellow is okay, but green, blue and violet isn't. I don't know
No,
what your-
Yeah, all of it is at wavelengths of light where it's going to scatter and make the sky brighter at that wavelength and make it harder to observe objects at that wavelength. When we talked about challenge of assigning color temperature, it's because the way the color temperatures get used two ways in this discussion. One, when a light fixture gets assigned or a luminaire gets assigned a color temperature, because LED white lights are not really white. They're not uniformly bright as a function of wavelength. They have a UV spike, they have emission lines, but the industry assigns an effective color temperature. If you have monochromatic light, like just blue or just yellow, then the assigning a color temperature doesn't make much sense because it's supposed to be describing the temperature of a black body emitter that would reproduce that light. And it's not black body light, it's filtered light. I think for the devices that Clayton was mentioning or Dan were mentioning can be adjusted to be white light, then they should have to be compliant if they are operating in white light mode or allowable to be switched, not disabled. For the filtered light, the colored light, I think we have to give some thought to an absolute brightness limit and maybe say the color temperature rule doesn't apply, because I don't know how you would decide that a monochromatic blue light or yellow light has an effective color temperature. I don't know how you could do that.
Okay, great. I see we do, we need to stay on this topic.
Wait. Hey, Rick.
This is not a call to the
It's not
audience,
a
sir.
call to the audience, Rick. Yeah. No.
Okay, do we have any other discussion?
I got one more thing real
Sure.
quick, Dennis. On the interior lights, I think we've all seen some that are being used as advertisements, as advertising signs, but they're interior. Would it be worth looking at something in the sign section for an interior sign? I don't know.
And
Just throwing that out.
you'd already said though that if it's 1 inch inside, it's.
What was discussed, there's a Tucson sign code committee, not sure what Cambridge County decided on, but, we didn't want to get into certain to regulate, front of your back wall, you have Budweiser sign.
Mhm.
Public can't really see it. Supposedly, it's part of the rationale, but I think there was a 1 inch gap, it was not considered signage. Where we kind of split the sign code versus interior signage. No, as I said, I'm not sure what the cap, they updated their.
That sounds like a nice project for the engineering working group.
Mhm.
You can't see me grinning.
I can.
Sure.
So Dennis, can you name an address or send me an address of an example of one of these? And have measurements been made? I'm wondering whether these might not be as bad as people are. Even though light is getting out of the window, I'd like to look and see how much is actually going up into the sky and also just how much light's escaping. Glass is going to absorb a lot of the UV and blue light, or I'm just curious if this isn't a big problem. I'd hate to introduce more code. If it is a big problem, then, but I don't know. Has anybody made measurements yet?
I don't think measurements have been made. You mean like with a nip gun or something of that nature, or?
Yeah, I mean, because our eyes are very good at seeing it, and the question is, how much of it is real? How is it? I suspect that there's so many other things that are a bigger contributor that this isn't the major problem. But maybe I'm totally wrong. If you can point me towards an example, I'd like to go look at it.
Do you have a knit gun, Buell, that you could take with you to do that?
I do.
Okay.
Let me see if I can come up with some examples.
Thank you.
Dennis, will you also send him the two we talked about in subcommittee that you showed me? If you can't remember what they are, I can tell you.
Yeah, I remember the one was the Shell gas station and the other, did I show one that was
Purple
all
thing.
that light that was really bright?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
all the
okay.
purple. Yeah.
Yeah, purple.
Yeah.
Do we share this with the rest of the team or it's only on subcommittee? I'm interested in what you're looking at.
No, I think we're talking about it now in full committee.
I'd like to just see what you're talking about.
I'll try to put something together and put it out for everybody. All right, I'll distribute it to, Clayton. or Dan,
Yeah.
And then you guys can.
You can
Am
send
I-
it to me. We'll
Okay, I'll send
send it out. Yeah.
If you need, Dennis, you could, if you want to just dump them all into my email, I can put together the document and send it to Clayton and Dan, to sort of spread the love on the work around.
Okay, I guess we'll move on to our next agenda item, which is number 7, call to the audience. So this is the time for anyone that wants to address the committee. I see a hand and have for a long time from Rick, so I hate to ignore you, but if we weren't ready for that, Dan, go ahead.
Okay, in reference to the points Dan was making, as code enforcement, I had multiple cases with signage in the window. The LEDs, first of all, installed without permits, that's the big one. But they're all installed against the window, they're pointing outward, and they was brought up. Those are a form of advertisement. They're attracting you into the business. You see the flashing, the lights. You're looking what that business is. So it is a form of advertisement. It's not a written form. It's a form. Secondly, signs. Circle K has wrapped the full fuel and thing. And they're trying to call it a sign, but it's full of white LEDs that are shining brightly through both the red and a lot of white. But they're saying it's a sign and it's the full canopy, the fuel canopy. So, as he said, where does that fall under? Because now it is putting out lighting, definite lighting that's bright. And they're saying, well, it's not a light, it's a sign. So we need to come up with something to figure out to address what Dan's pointing to on both of those two issues. And I've seen it in code enforcement and tried to work through it. I mean, first of all, on the LEDs, was all installed without permits. So that's the first thing we got them for, is they had to get permits and they couldn't. So they had to take it down. But the point is, they are putting it up as a code enforcement. It would be beneficial to have the secondary is violation of the outdoor lighting codes, not just violation of the building codes, because it is creating a bright light outsource. And we all know white LEDs, red LEDs, colors, they put out some light. They really do. And the wavelengths on those is what we're discussing. So those are the points I want to make based on some of the stuff that Dan brought up.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, do we have anybody else either online or in the room that wants to speak? Okay, I'm gonna close the call to the audience and we'll move on to agenda item 8, which is establishing future agenda items. In doing that, I think I need to say that I think we really need the subcommittee to get some more work done so that we have more to discuss in the full committee meeting. But beyond that,
I mean,
It
I
would
agree
seem-
with you. I think we came up with about 5 projects today we can work on.
so we don't need our item 3, consideration of chair and vice chair. We don't really need our item 4, formation of the engineering group. We're handling those. But we should have subcommittee reports on the agenda for the next meeting. And probably all the other items. So we would need the FMS presentation discussion, committee discussion, call to the audience, future agenda, etc.
And what about this is Craig, what about a presentation by Fisher Moran's And that if they have all their documentation done.
I don't think we're
Yes.
gonna be there, Craig, because we need to get all the feedback from from the committee first, and then give them time to review it and work on it.
Yeah,
That might
maybe.
be too soon.
Yeah, I think we need some subcommittee work, so then we can coalesce that in the next committee meeting with really having some bullet points that need to go to FMS to get them to wrap it up. I mean, we've got to do something to move this thing along. It's really been dragging lately. And the concern is the technology is running away from us. And
Yeah.
I'm just seeing what's getting built out there and it's time to get this update done, in my opinion. Okay, did we have that for future agenda? I guess
Dennis Buell's hand has been raised and he's very polite.
I missed it. I'm sorry.
Yeah, sorry, Dennis. I was wondering, if the subcommittee, and I wish you well, does make a lot of progress before the next meeting, can the material be circulated in advance so that we can read through it? In other words, I think it'll be hard for the committee to give you useful feedback if we're reacting sort of in real time.
Certainly try.
Great, thank you.
Okay, our next item is adjournment.
Don't have to do it for something anymore, so. There.
Craig had the last word.
Mhm.
We are adjourned.
So, something.